What's going on, everybody? Today I am excited to talk to you about something that I call lifestyle design. And if you have followed any of my previous videos, you'll know that I talk about that there are three stages you need to go through in order to turn your life around or to get what you want out of life. And number one is lifestyle design. You have to craft a vision for your future. And then if you're curious about the other two steps, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but they're upgrading your mindset so that you can actually achieve that vision. And then you need a daily plan for execution that will actually move you towards that vision. And so if you're really curious about these three things, I've got them all in PDF versions. And the way to get those is I'm going to be publishing a Kickstarter in October of 2020. And so if you want to learn more about these things, these PDFs, you'll buy the True Potential Planner, which itself is a planner. I've got mine right here. It looks like this. And so you'll buy one of those and it'll come with all the PDFs, which will give you step-by-step instructions on how to do these three steps exactly so that you can achieve the life that you want and turn your life around. And so the step number one is lifestyle design. And in other words, crafting a vision for yourself. Basically, you're asking yourself the question, how do I want to live the rest of my life? And you need to have some sort of a vision that you're working towards. And I realized that's what I did not have when I first started this journey. Well, before I even started the journey, because you can't really be on a journey if you don't have any sort of destination. And that's what I was. I was just kind of wandering around like this. I didn't know where I was going. I had no idea what my plans were. I was kind of at like a dead end job. My relationships were kind of stagnant. I was slowly gaining weight over time. I was about 45 pounds overweight. I was, pretty broke. My relationships, I love my girlfriend, but our relationship was kind of, flat because I wasn't putting any work into it or anything. And so basically my life was just kind of stagnant and I didn't know where I was going with it. And what really pulled me out of that is just wandering around like this is crafting a vision for myself. And if you've heard me, I've talked about it, I purchased a program that really helped you define your vision like very clearly. And I realized I had never done that process. We all have things that we think we might like, oh, maybe I'd like to be a software engineer, or oh, maybe I'd like to be a park ranger, or whatever job you think you might like to have. Well, just having thoughts like that is it means nothing. You need to have plans for your life. You have to have a vision that you are planning on working towards. Otherwise, all these kind of nebulous thoughts in here, they don't mean anything. And kind of the way I thought about it is, everything there's like a cloud of infinite possibilities. And if you don't select any of those possibilities, you're not really going to achieve anything. You're just going to kind of drift around in the cloud. And the way you get through it is to kind of crystallize one path like this. So you're like, you're down here, this is where you want to get to. So all you have to do now is travel the path there. You have to kind of crystallize from an infinite number of possibilities exactly what you want your life to look like so that you can start working on it towards achieving it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, when you first design it, because how are you going to know precisely what you want if you've never even attained any of these things yet? And so it's mostly a process of exploration. A lot of people think that you can just plan your entire vision at one time and that's it. But that's not how it works at all. It's a constant iterative process. When I first started, I thought, if I got in great shape, that would be amazing and my life would pretty much be set. And once you get there, you realize that, yeah, it's great to be in good shape, but so what? It's not really that big of a deal. Nobody else really cares. Maybe your spouse is happy or your girlfriend or whatever, but nobody really cares. That's mostly for yourself. And so I realized there was a lot more to life after that. And that's how a lot of goals are. You set the goal and you're like, man, if I could just get that goal, my life would be set. And then you get there and it's good, but you get used to it very quickly. And if I remember correctly from my psychology training in school, that's called the hedonic treadmill. Once we get something good, as humans, we become accustomed to it so quickly that after, a couple months, it's like, okay, well, this is just my new normal now. And you don't really get a lot of pleasure from it anymore. And so then you just have to move up to the next level. And of course, you can realize that that is a concept that happens in our heads, and be grateful for what you have achieved and how you got there. And I think that is really important. That's why gratitude has become such a big thing these days. But anyways, yeah, you have to be able to craft a vision. So you start down here and you craft a vision that's up here, and you have to make it so specific that you can see it in your head. Otherwise, you're just kind of like working your way towards, you don't really know where. And so how are you going to get there if you're kind of like going sideways, going all around? You're not going to be able to get there unless you know exactly what it is you're working towards, because how are you going to work towards anything if you don't know what it is you're even working towards? And so that's why it's so important to craft a vision, because you can't start working on something if you don't really know where you're going. And so that's step number one. And then the other thing it does is it really pulls you out of your rut that you're in, and it gives you motivation, inspiration, and purpose. And that's probably the other biggest thing that it does is when you're down here, your life, you're not really motivated to change. Like, you want to change and you try to change sometimes, but because you don't have any sort of a vision up here, you just kind of go like this. Like, you'll achieve little results here and there, but you're just kind of like, what's really the point, because you don't really have a vision. So there's no bigger purpose behind what you're doing. But when you craft a vision that's so compelling for you, what it does, it helps draw you up like a magnet. Like, you start down here and you can see your vision so clearly in your head that it motivates and inspires you so much that it just slowly like draws you up to it. I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about that a lot. When people are bodybuilding, everybody else that was bodybuilding was like, their faces all scrunched up and they were painful because, obviously it's just inherently a painful thing. And people are always surprised when they saw Arnold, because he was always like smiling at the gym and laughing and joking and having like the time of his life. And they're like, why is that? How are you so happy here when everybody else seems like so tight and like stressed out? And he's like, well, every day that I am at the gym and working extremely hard, it's moving me one small step closer to my vision. He's like, I can see my vision so clear in my head, and it's so motivating towards me to be like the greatest bodybuilder of all time, that every ounce of effort that I put in towards achieving that goal is the best thing I can do for myself at that time. And so that's what crafting a vision will do for you. Rather than relying on discipline and motivation, it'll help draw you up there just by the inherent fact that it's something you want to achieve. And discipline and motivation are extremely important, and that's why you need to upgrade your mindset, which is the next step. But they're not going to help you if you craft a vision for yourself that is not true for you. No amount of no amount of discipline is going to save you. So what I mean by that is, if you craft a vision, say it's somebody else's vision. So you're like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a 150-mile race. And so you spend like 3 years training for it and you complete the race, and then you're like, you build your discipline, and maybe you can even achieve that goal, but then you achieve it and you're like, why did I even try to do that? That wasn't my goal. It was my goal, but it wasn't my goal. Like, I just saw somebody else who did that and I thought it'd be a cool thing to do, but I don't really care to run that far. And so if you build your discipline so strong, that's an amazing tool that you can use to achieve your vision. But it's also kind of a double-edged sword, because if you have really strong discipline, but you craft the wrong vision, well, you're going to work towards that vision relentlessly no matter what, because your discipline is so strong, but you won't even take the time to stop and realize that the goal you're working towards is not what you truly want out of life. And so that's what happens to a lot of people. And one thing I want to caution you strongly against is, when you craft a vision, you don't want to make it a sort of generic vision that is just kind of a generic version of something that everybody would want. So what I mean by that is, like, you don't want to just say like, oh, I want a super nice house, or I want a really nice fast car, I want a beautiful wife or husband, I want a nice house in a nice neighborhood with a beautiful pool in the backyard. It's fine if you want any of these things, but just really analyze yourself and make sure it's true for you. Like for myself, I know that and I think the best way to do this is look back at your past. What have you been interested in? And if you weren't interested in those things in the past, you're not really probably going to be interested in them in the future. So just look at past behaviors and talk to other people about how they perceive you, because sometimes you don't even have a good view on yourself. And see where your time goes has gone in the past, where your attention has gone, where your money has gone, because these things are all indicators of what you truly enjoy. And sometimes it's kind of weird how this isn't really clear to us a lot of times. I know it wasn't for me. It was kind of strange to almost like rediscover yourself. And so you don't want to set a goal that's like just, oh, I'm going to get a super fast, nice car because, well, if you get a lot of money, that's just something that people do. So it must be pretty cool. So I want to do that. And like I was saying, for myself, I had never really been interested in cars. Having a sports car sounds nice, but I really don't know anything about cars. I don't really care that much about cars. Like if I see a nice car, I'm like, well, that's a pretty sweet car. But it doesn't really, I've never been that interested in. I have a lot of other interests that I would rather pursue than owning a super nice sports car or something like that. That's just an example. I never have had any previous interest in it. So why would I like spend all this time saving up money for this brand new sports car when it's not really a true goal for me? It just might seem like something that I might really like, but if I've never liked it in the past, why would I like it in the future? So that's just kind of a cautionary tale. When you're setting your goals, just make sure they're true for you. Don't set goals that you have been instilled in you by other people. Just set goals that are true for yourself, because that's what I did when I first started, and I don't totally regret it, but I see clearly now that I didn't realize at the time it wasn't really a goal that I set for myself. I would do the same thing again probably, but probably in a different sort of way. So if you've seen in my other videos, you might know what I'm talking about. But when I first started my self-development journey, well, a little while after I got into it, when we were crafting their vision, and like I talked about in that program, what I did was I was like, oh, you know how I can really set a cool vision for myself? I'm going to complete an Ironman triathlon, and that'd be pretty sweet. And the reason I did this, I realize now, is because at the time I was listening to a book by David Goggins called You Can't Hurt Me. And if you've never read this book, I strongly, strongly recommend that you go get this book. It is absolutely excellent, and it will really motivate you, especially if you're trying to get in good shape. It'll definitely motivate you to do that. So go out and get that if you haven't read it. I listen to it on audio. I still listen to it all the time just because he's so motivating to me. But what happened was I was 45 pounds overweight. I didn't exercise. I didn't even know how to freestyle swim at all. And I was like, oh, it'd be a great idea. I'm gonna um, schedule and compete for an Ironman triathlon. And like, why? Why would I even think to do that? I realize now just because of the book. And it did help me get in great shape, and I learned a ton during the process. And also another reason I wanted to do it was when I first started my self-development journey, like I said, I had my vision up here. I was down here, but I couldn't figure out how to get up there. I couldn't figure out what I needed to do because I'd crafted my vision, but I didn't have the mindset the number two step, the mindset I was talking about. I didn't really have any daily plan for execution. So I was just kind of like going around down here. I never really could move up towards my vision. And so I wanted to figure out those two pieces of the puzzle. And I was like, well, if I can complete an Ironman triathlon, I'll know that my mindset is strong, and I will know that my daily plan for execution is strong as well. And I just wanted to basically stress test the system and make sure that it worked. And then when I completed the Ironman triathlon, I knew that it worked, and I was ready to kind of put forward this whole idea out into the marketplace. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I've got for this video is your lifestyle design, the number one first step you want to take. And like I said, if you want step-by-step instructions on how to do this, you're going to want to get my Kickstarter program, which is going to be releasing on October 1st, or hopefully that's the plan. That's 2 months from now. So I'm still working on a lot of stuff. There's still a lot of moving pieces. So stay tuned in October of 2020 for the release of the True Potential Planner on Kickstarter. And then when you see it on there, when you purchase the True Potential Planner, what it's going to do is there are 3 PDFs that you download, and they'll give you step-by-step instructions on the lifestyle design, upgrading your mindset, and then your daily plan for execution is inside of the True Potential Planner. So, whoops, you can see, like, I fill this out every single day still. It's been the absolute key to my success. And so that's what you'll need to do in order to achieve success. And that's all I've got for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for tomorrow. And I will put another video out for you. And that's all. Stay safe and stay hungry.